Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your host, Steve and Jeff. G'day, mates.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Top 5 unusual therapies.
Unusual is a key word.
And it's funny because you've just quickly given me a sort of a breakdown. I've heard some, but not others.
No.
So this should be pretty interesting.
Pretty interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. We're going to go back into history a bit.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about things like hyperbaric oxygen.
Right.
Weirdly.
Well, I mean, hyperbaric oxygen, yeah, okay, I've heard of that before with people that get the bends, right? Don't they use a hyperbaric chamber to sort of de-oxygenate the blood or to re-oxygenate? I forget what it is.
Yeah, what it does is basically, let's say you dive down very deep and you come up very quickly.
Yep.
You'll get the bends. And the reason is this is nitrogen bubbles that come out of, because you're pressurised down there and nitrogen goes into the blood. You have to come up slowly so it can slowly release and not cause big bubbles in your blood. If you come up too quick, you'll get the bends and nitrogen. So what they do is they pressurise you down there again in a chamber down the bottom of the ocean. They slowly decompress you to the top.
Why do they call it the bends?
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a design. I wonder, Matt, could you look that up?
Yeah,
I wonder if it was named after Benz. Maybe he discovered the syndrome, because that happens a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the other thing that I know that hyperbaric treatment is used for, Steve, is for injuries.
Injuries?
And for accelerating the healing time, right?
Absolutely.
Do they know, and is it soft tissue damage? I'd imagine probably like mainly muscle and ligament, tendon, that sort of thing? They
use it for cancer treatment.
Really?
Yeah, hyperbaric oxygen.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we may as well start on hyperbaric oxygen.
Well, I think we have. Sorry, Steve.
So
I've just hijacked it. Yeah, that was probably your last one, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Hyperbaric oxygen is an interesting one because what it is, it's highly pressurised oxygen in the body. Now, we'll start with the cancer thing.
Yep.
Because what we know is that cancer cells, they actually energise themselves anaerobically without air.
Right.
Okay? So the theory with that is if we oxygenate the blood, cancer cells don't like oxygen. This is the theory.
Okay.
This is what they're testing at the moment, is that if you oxygenate the blood, does it give you a benefit if you've got a solid tumour?
It's funny because I heard people using, was it bicarb of soda or something like that to try and treat the big C?
Yep.
But I don't think that works, does it, Steve?
The reason why it works is because
it's in your gut. It's not getting into your blood.
Exactly, and there's a problem with this because cancer cells also, when they metabolise anaerobically, they produce a lot of acid.
Right.
They're called lactic acid. And what that lactic acid does is, of course, that it acidifies the cancer cell. So when you test the cancer, it's very acidic.
Right.
So people think, it doesn't like alkaline.
Yeah,
let's alkaline them.
Yeah.
So it was a very old treatment. Unfortunately, doesn't work. And in fact, I'm going to show you a bit later on that giving someone acid is beneficial for cancer.
Like for like? Treats like?
It's a little bit like that.
Yeah, wow.
But in fact, there were studies showing that, for example, if you exercise and produce lactic acid, you reduce your rates of cancer dramatically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're producing lactic acid.
Yes.
That's interesting, Steve, because I actually, when you said it's lactic acid, that went through my mind and went, okay, so exercising, then does that promote cancers? And I'm thinking it can't.
It cuts it dramatically.
So, Matt, why is it called the bends?
So they're like that.
It is. I've seen that. So it's called the full name, thanks to Matt, who shall remain faceless, is that it's the Grecian bends, and it's because people were literally bending over.
Well, it's very painful.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, at least it's not called the bend over syndrome.
Oh no. And the way you can diagnose it, if you feel the joints and they're actually relieved by pressure. So if you put pressure on the joints, your hands, and their pain goes away.
Right.
That's one of the.
But how does it actually kill you?
Oh, the air bubbles go through and you get an aneurysm.
Wow.
It's like in the brain.
Right.
An air bubble stops the blood flow.
A lot more people die of it diving than I actually thought.
Oh yeah. I mean, everyone would die of it if you went down and came up too quick. You would just 100% death rate. I mean, if you didn't go down too deep, but if you went down deep enough and came up fast enough, you would die.
Wow.
So pretty incredible.
Wow.
Because the atmospheres of pressure down there are extraordinary.
Yeah.
So, you have to put them in a hyperbaric chamber to get that level back up.
What else is hyperbaric chamber good for, Steve?
Well, you mentioned we mentioned injuries before.
Yeah. And
also recovery from exercise. So let's say you've gone out and you've done
it's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
Oh, if you did a marathon or something.
Yeah. Well, let's say you're a wealthy athlete, let's say. And they do have their own hyperbaric oxygen chambers,
really?
some of them. Yeah. I won't mention names, but I looked them up on the internet.
Really?
But they do.
Mention a name.
Oh, there was one of the basketballers. I'd never heard of him.
What, an NBA guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they make plenty of money.
They make plenty of money.
Same with the old soccer players. I'm wearing a Man U jumper today.
Oh, yeah.
They might have some.
Red Devils, is that what they call
Well, yeah, and before people start throwing hate at me, it was when I first started, and I absolutely loved Ibrahimovic. It is sort of, I just started playing.
Or not?
Pardon?
Was that what you didn't swear then, did you, on the podcast?
Ibrahimovic.
Oh, okay, that's what you said. That's
no.
Zlatan
Ibrahimovic, great football player, but he's tall like me. He's slightly taller, but he's got really big feet. I've got big feet, and so I play on the wing, and I watched him to see how he struck the ball with big feet, because having big feet makes it a bit harder from time to time. Anyway, so because I was watching all these people on how to strike. Anyway, so I just started following him, and he moved to Man U at the time, and that's why I love them. So please, no hate.
But these guys, they do it because let's say you've had a really hard training session and you're full of acid and you've got to train in the afternoon.
Yep.
Acid is lactic acid, anaerobic buildup, so you get a lot of oxygen in your system, and it can help metabolize the lactic acid. So it reduces acid in the body.
Right.
So then you can go out, and people sleep in these chambers. Michael Jackson famously used to, allegedly sleep in these chambers. He thought it'd give him now it gives you more energy.
Right.
Because I drive a diesel, I know, ready to hang me up. But diesels usually have turbos on them.
Yeah.
Now, turbos force more air, along with the intercooler, into the engine to get more combustion, more complete combustion.
Well, the question I've got for you, though, is that surely then it would increase free radical damage as well, too, wouldn't it?
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oxygen. And there's been some problems with
oxidative stress.
Yeah. In fact, breathing gives us oxidative stress. Now, we have antioxidants in our body to protect against it. But the most common radical that's formed is superoxide, which is O2 with a free radical on it.
So what's the superoxide dismutase, Steve?
There's 3 enzyme systems there. They've made it from copper, manganese, and zinc.
Right.
And they neutralise superoxide.
So what's interesting is that with regards to that, and again, I revert back to that study on food that Harvard University did, and I'm talking this study was probably completed 20 years ago. It might still be going, but it showed that copper in our apples were effectively extinct. Now, I've said this before. So our food quality is really important to actually help with the antioxidant systems as well, too.
Very much so.
So...
And we've got to have the right amount of these nutrients. So what's found in nature, like when I say nature, I mean if we can, because copper is demonised.
I know.
Because copper was found to be toxic in certain levels. And it is. It's a bell
curve again, Steve.
It is.
Everything comes back to a bell curve.
Now, if you topically apply copper, it has a beneficial effect on arthritis. Have you ever seen people...
copper bands and copper rings. Yep, absolutely.
The copper's released into the joint, and the joint builds up free radicals.
They don't have to eat it, Steve. It goes through the skin.
Oh, yes.
I'm never letting it go. I'm not letting it...
I know.
You're a science denier, Steve. There's no way it can go through the skin. It doesn't go
through the skin. Neither does mercury. I'd love to come across these people and say, okay, put your hands in some mercury, just liquid mercury.
I wouldn't affect them, Steve, because they don't believe in it. No.
They don't believe in it.
No.
So
can't believe a company hired that guy. Wouldn't it?
Oh, that's
crazy.
No, it's just a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
It's a lack of understanding. But it goes through the skin. Yeah. It's a mineral. Look at the size of a mineral. It's tiny. It's only got, I don't know how many protons are in copper.
Well, actually, I was thinking of bringing him on for a debate, Steve, but then I worked out we'd run out of crayons and sock puppets, so I decided not to.
It doesn't take that long to look up a paper on transdermal testosterone, and you can see it just go, they apply the cream and it goes every hour they measure it. It's like...
You sound like an abstract scientist, Steve.
Yeah. Well, the graphs aren't in the abstract; they're in the later one. But so it wouldn't be hard to disprove these sorts of things.
It doesn't matter if you've got a meme. That's all that matters.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's the whole thing. So anyway, this whole hyperbaric oxygen is meaning to get more oxygen into your system, and there are benefits and there are downsides. So if you're just an average Joe six-pack and you're getting more oxygen in your system, that won't be good. Because the human body is designed to have about 19 to 20% copper in oxygen in the atmosphere. And if you have more than that, then that can increase free radicals. If you exercise, you upregulate your antioxidant enzymes as well. So that's fine. You breathe more oxygen, you deal with it. In fact, that's why one of the most potent antioxidants is exercise.
Right. Explain that to me.
Sure. When you exercise, your engine revs up. Okay, basically. So your body naturally makes more antioxidants, like makes more superoxide, makes more glutathione. Wow. Naturally. Makes glutathione out of amino acids, makes superoxide out of, as I said, those 3 minerals before, manganese, copper.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you see people that exercise, again, without going crazy and killing themselves, if you know what I mean, like in terms of over-exercising to the point where their recovery is impaired.
Yeah.
They always seem to have... an anti-aging quality about them in terms of, obviously, their muscle strength and their weight loss, but even in terms of their mobility and their activity. Is that because of the antioxidant production in their body as well too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Can you overcome that just through food, though, Steve? Could you overcome that just through eating like lots and lots of really high antioxidant type foods?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're the most potent forms of antioxidants. Now, last week we had Dr. Tim on about polyphenols. So that was a week before, wasn't it now?
Yeah.
Oops. Okay. And so that's a powerful antioxidant you won't find in your multivitamin and mineral.
But is there a difference? Like, in other words, do you get obviously we know exercise is beneficial, but is there some forms of antioxidants or some levels that can only be achieved through doing both, if that makes sense?
Yeah, superoxide is what they call reactionary. So it will go up in reaction to your exercise level.
Right.
So
you could eat perfectly, but if you don't exercise, notwithstanding all of the other related benefits, in terms of sugar and increased muscle tissue, increased basal metabolic resting rate, all these sorts of things, but you wouldn't, even if you ate perfectly, you're still going to be missing out.
You are going to be missing out. Absolutely, you're going to be missing out. So it's quite problematic. And we've also had, and we're not talking about it in this podcast, but there's things called iron lungs. Have you heard of those?
No. Yeah. Back in the Second World War.
Yeah, when I was kicking around as a kid.
Yeah, kicking around as a kid.
Adult. Yeah. Second World War. 1939 to 45.
Yeah. I have heard of an iron lung. What do they use those for again?
There was a terrible disease still around, polio, which
it's making a comeback.
Yeah. And
wonder why.
And so these people had to go inside an iron lung to get the iron lung to breathe for them.
That's right.
Or they died.
Yeah, right.
So
did they have to stay in there, Steve? Did they suddenly get over? They had to stay in there for life.
Stay in there for a long time. Some of them. Someone lived in there for. I can't remember. It was years.
I think you know what.
Yeah, I've got to remember that.
Way back in the back of my memory, I remember that. That'd be interesting. Could you look up the longest person to live in an iron lung and when that person died?
It's kind of.
I do remember. From when I was in the 1980s, when I was a very small boy. Yeah. I do remember, talking about the iron lung with my dad. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, there's a gag about the iron lung, which is probably not politically correct.
Right.
But you know about it?
No.
Oh, this guy was pushing an iron lung down the street, and he said, where'd you get that? He said, I got it off some bloke. And I said, what did he say? And he said, he went, Oh, iron lung. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
okay, so we have got the Guinness World Record for the person who lived inside an iron lung.
Yeah.
An Australian polio victim who spent more than, and I'm going to give you a multiple choice question here, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 60 years.
Well, one of these is not like the other. And call me a bit of a radical, Steve. Are you serious? 60 years?
60 years.
Oh, my Lord. He lived in it the whole time.
June Margaret Middleton.
What year did she die?
2009.
Get out.
She was born in 1926. An Australian polio victim who spent more than 60 years living in an iron lung for treatment of disease. In 2006, Guinness World Record recognised the person who spent the longest amount of time living in an iron lung.
Oh, my Lord, that poor lady. And she's Australian.
Yes.
Did you say where she was from?
No, so I'll click on it.
Poor girl. Wow.
Really?
Brisbane.
So that's absolutely staggering, isn't it?
Wow, that is just, poor, remember the little boy that lived in the Bubble Boy? Remember him?
Oh, yeah,
And they actually bought him NASA made him a suit and all the rest of it because he had effectively no immune system.
Oh, wow.
Poor kid ended up passing away. But
Absolutely
some people have horrible lives, don't they?
Oh, well, that unfortunate woman.
She's Melbourne.
Melbourne.
So this poor lady got it when she was in her early 20s, just before she was about to get married.
Yep.
The husband stayed with her, or got married. The husband stayed with her for 5 years, and then. There's no winners there.
Nah.
That's
horrific. So that's, oxygen.
Sure.
They also use hydrogen peroxide drops in water. I've seen that as an alternative treatment.
I've heard of that that doesn't work.
Idea. That's a really bad idea.
That's a really bad idea. And look, this is some of the areas where it is really, really bad ideas.
Yes. And they do that because if you look at the chemical structure of hydrogen peroxide, it's H2O2.
Right.
So it's got an extra O and in water. So that's the way they think of it. Oh, extra O, oxygen and water. How bad can that be?
Oh, I've seen these things at Vegas when I went past, and they had these oxygen, just breathe pure oxygen and all the rest of it. I'm like, really?
It'll pep you up because you get more oxygenation.
Sure.
but it's not natural.
No.
If you want to get more oxygen in your lungs, go for a freaking run. You know, get some exercise. That'll get more oxygen.
Yeah, but that takes effort. I could just sit there with a mask on.
I suppose, yeah, it makes sense. All right, so that's oxygen now. Now, we've got a few other little weird things for you. What about intravenous vitamins?
Well, the only one I know a lot about is intravenous vitamin C, which is a very bad idea for the most part.
Most part it is.
Most part. But yeah, what about intravenous vitamin C?
Well, I'll start
I know subcutaneous or intramuscular vitamin B shots, a lot of people get them.
Sure.
But other than that, I don't really know much.
Sure. All right, well, let's start with vitamin C.
Okay.
And we'll take you back to 1976.
Yep.
Okay. Linus Pauling. Yep. Linus Pauling was one of the fans, we'll call him, of vitamin C.
He loved vitamin C.
He loved it so much that he decided to inject cancer people with 10 grams of vitamin C intravenously, like terminal cancer patients.
And what happened?
They lived a lot longer.
Okay.
Yeah. Why? They theorised it was because of the oxidative stress that cancer patients go under.
Right.
And also the lowering of the pH or acid, increasing the acid in the body. Mm-hmm. Acid in the body is counter for cancer. So, for example, and a lot of people think you've got to alkalise the body for cancer. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, it's not true. For example, a great way to protect against, say, for example, bowel cancer is you grow, and finish the word for me, you grow your short-chain fatty
acids.
Correct. They're highly protective against cancer in the bowel, especially butyric acid, propionic acid, hyaluronic acid.
Yep.
So acids are very good. If you exercise, you boost your acid levels in your body, protective against cancer.
Wow.
Because you've got to remember, the cancer cell makes all this this acid from sugar and then pumps it out. And it's actually what they call a gradient dependent. In other words, if there's no acid out there, it'll pump it out. If there's lost acid, it can't. So it makes acid. So it's
about almost like a homeostasis.
Homeostasis thing.
Yeah,
so if there's a lot of acid in the system, whether it's ascorbic acid or vitamin C, these guys, or lactic acid, the cancer cell can't get rid of the cancer and it dies.
And there is a very big difference between obviously ingesting vitamin C versus actually putting it in the blood. So don't think you can go and suck down heaps of vitamin C capsules that it's going to be beneficial for you, other than, I guess, moderate health, Steve.
Exactly. So what this was, they said, basically with the ascorbate subjects, the mean survival time was more than 4.2 times as great for the ascorbate subjects, vitamin C, than for the controls.
Well, how big was the study, though?
It was 100 people. So not
massive. I mean, like for something that, it's good. It's a good indicator. They should probably follow it up with a larger study.
They did.
Yeah.
And they didn't get the good results, because what they found was that they swapped them out of vitamin C. This was done at John Hopkins, that's right.
Right.
And they swapped them out for chemotherapy. So they couldn't reproduce the results.
No.
Because back then, 76, chemo wasn't a real big thing.
Right.
So they had little options.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you've got a cancer that responds to chemo, you got to remember 76. So, I mean, the question with this is, okay, we've got a preliminary study that seems to show benefit 4.2 times. You live, instead of for 50 days on average, you live 210 days. 10 grams of vitamin C IV. Not a toxic dose. No side effects were reported in this study. Now, is it worth it? Is it
I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But I've got something else for IV vitamin C that's even more effective.
Okay.
You know all the plebs downstairs that are slacking off right now, while we're upstairs working our butts off?
I know.
They're slack, right? So there was a study done in 2012, which, I mean, you'd love the title of this, intravenous vitamin C administration reduces fatigue in office workers in a double-blind randomised placebo-controlled trial.
Get out the syringes, Steve-O.
Get them out. We're gonna stick them all down.
Yeah.
So
hang on a minute, you have to be careful how you say that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, this is for 141 healthy volunteers aged 20 to 49. Gave them 10 grams of vitamin C, and they compared it against the placebo. Because if you get a needle and you stick someone on, they're going to be more alert, aren't they? Okay?
Yeah,
so
probably.
The placebo was just saline, which is solid.
Yeah.
And just fluid. The other one was the same saline but had 10 grams of vitamin C in it.
Yeah.
And the 10 grams of vitamin C significantly reduced fatigue at 2 hours, and the effect persisted for 1 day.
Wow.
There was no difference in adverse effects.
Surely, Steve, there's got to be some piper to pay on that, though. Yes. I mean, obviously, other than a big needle being shoved into your body.
There's lots of problems with this. Firstly...
You think?
yeah. Firstly, this was done once. Okay, so All right. No, it showed an effect for one day. But if you had this every single day...
it wouldn't. Surely.
You're going to get, I think, kidney stones as one of the side effects.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oxalate.
Okay.
You get oxalate production. So, I mean, this study doesn't say that, so I'm not misquoting the study.
Right.
But
that's your theory.
Yeah.
That's your hypothesis.
Yes, hypothesis. There was no side effects in this. So, for a one-off thing, so it seems like this whole vitamin
Man, I
C...
can think of better things to do than that, though.
Could you?
I mean, seriously, if I need a bit of a pep up, I'm going to probably go and have a cup of coffee, Steve.
Yep, or something else.
Or something else.
Can we say that's something else?
Well, something with caffeine in it,
Yes.
like slice and dice or yippee-ki-yay. Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can.
That's
we're not making it.
probably right.
Yeah.
No?
But I'm going to do something like that.
Yeah.
Or even use something non-stimulatory. Well, I should say it's not stimulatory, but like non-caffeinated, like an amp or something like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, or the one I really liked is go get that burner and go get some Synephrine.
Synephrine.
Was it
bitter orange?
Bitter orange, yeah. And do that.
Sure.
Which is nice smelling and going to enhance without a needle being jabbed into me, Steve.
But, it looks pretty cool having a needle there hooked up like that. Wouldn't it be good? You can say, look. And, people shooting up with all sorts of stuff. They'll be, oh, no, it's vitamin C. Yeah, it's vitamin C.
Holy cow, Steve. I'm going to have to keep... you know what? I think we need to go for counselling after this.
Absolutely. But quite an interesting study. I just thought that was interesting.
It is interesting.
It's interesting. Now, you mentioned like intramuscular B12 and all those sort of things. Yeah. I mean, that's useful for some people.
Yeah, obviously depending on deficiencies. Yes. Yep.
Now, if you're deficient, the answer to that is to supplement it because vitamins are supposed to be taken orally. Mm-hmm. Okay, just from a, what we're supposed to eat point of view. But B12 is a different one because B12 is I think a famous lecturer when I was in America said that there's no danger to B12 liquid unless you drown in a bathtub of it.
Right,
so it's a pretty good safety profile.
Sure. I mean, I always say though that and don't get me wrong. And Elizabeth says this as well too. Like the answer to a problem, short-term solution, great to improve you feeling better. And intervention, I always like, but long-term, we want to get to the root cause of the problem, which probably more than anything is diet.
Yeah, in the gut.
Of course, So yeah, I mean, great short-term solution, but I mean, you don't want to be having to go to the doctor every week or two to go and get an injection of vitamin B3 or something.
Up. It's only an NIM little thing.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not the answer. Gastric ulceration from people who have been drinking a lot really harms intrinsic factor, which harms B12. So they give that to chronic drinkers with gastritis.
Stop drinking.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, easier said than done, I know.
They give them a B cocktail with vitamin B1 in it.
B cocktail.
A B cocktail.
That's poor use of words, Steve.
Well, that's what
they'll be like, I'll take a B cocktail.
Oh, it's called a banana bag if you want the technical word. Oh, do you want to know why it's called a banana bag?
Is it anything like a goon bag? Because I love those. Do you know why it's called a goon bag? Because you act like a goon after you drink it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I love goon bag. Yeah. It's one of my favorites. It's like Tony and I are saying, you know what? I'm bringing back language vernacular from the 80s.
All right.
Yep.
Goon bag?
So I walked past my sister the other day, they go, hey, you going, bush pig? Look at that bush pig.
Yeah,
I love bush pig. That's such a great insult.
It will not offend her at all.
No.
Not at all.
Your drongo?
Yes.
You remember that?
Of course I remember that. I'm an Australian. We remember all those terrible... I was called a skip at school.
A skip?
Yeah, because I was
Skippy.
Australian.
Because you went to a school... What, you were down in Melbourne?
Yeah.
Where predominantly everybody
Greek
was from Italian. Yeah, Italian and Greeks, yeah. So there's more Greeks down, which is funny because one of my closest mates is Italian. He's married to a Greek.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
they're opening a new restaurant, actually.
Yeah.
Fire pizzas, like what do you call those?
Yeah.
Big. What are those big? Wood fire pizzas. Yeah. Actually, I'm not going to mention the name because we will not bow to any sponsor. So they're not getting a free plug.
No sponsors now too.
No.
Oh dear. Yeah. All right, so the whole IV thing with vitamin C is good, but the banana bag was called a banana bag because it contains riboflavin, which is very, very yellow. Have you ever peed in a pool?
Never. And you can't prove that I have.
But if you have a lot of vitamin B, you go to the toilets for a yellow.
Yep.
So the banana bags are that banana yellow colour because that's what they call them, and they're full of B vitamins, and they give that for chronic illnesses in hospital if they're suffering. Mm-hmm. Now vitamin C is given for septic shock a lot too, along with other drugs like steroids and that to reduce the inflammation. So that's a well-known treatment in hospital for septic shock, which is a big killer in Australia. So IV vitamin C and IV vitamins not long-term. You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm joking about, but if you've got pernicious anemia, which is a severe B12 deficiency, get a shot, but then fix your diet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And as I said, people go all the time, "Oh, Jeff, you're anti this, yeah." And I said, "No, not really." I said, "But I always want to get to the root cause.
Yeah.
I love medical intervention, love doctors, love drugs." Should be careful how I say that. In the right circumstance. But yeah, long term, let's get to the root cause of the problem and treat that.
Absolutely. There was a family member of mine, I won't mention their name, I won't even give the sex away, who was taking IV vitamins every week and had terrible side effects and had to give up.
Really?
Yeah. Just for their health.
Right.
So yeah, really interesting stuff. That quite healthy vitamins. No, they weren't weird vitamin whatever. And yeah, the side effects got to them, and they had to stop.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Well, this is always what we're worried about. And like we did another segment where we were talking about this artificial milk that you're looking at, Steve, right, being made right here in Australia. And I always. We can't outsmart nature, right? We just can't. Like there's always something there.
Yes.
Short-term intervention and great and what have you, but long-term, I don't want to be drinking synthetic milk, Steve.
No.
I mean, I don't really actually want to be drinking heavily processed milk.
I know, it's terrible.
So, therefore now we're going to synthetic. I mean, I just wonder what long-term, in 50 years they're going to come back like,
Yeah, it'll be problematic.
What is that? James Hardy, bloody asbestos and all the rest of it. Yeah. There's so many things that you don't know until a long time, right?
You don't know, and that's a major problem.
Anyway,
a major
we're
problem.
coming at it from a very natural standpoint where we actually believe that nature does know best, and that as humans we're natural animals and we have all these things. But yeah, anyway, go for it, Steve. What else you got for me?
I've got a hydrotherapy. Now this is fun.
So water.
Now any forms of water, and that includes ice, water or steam. So that's what I've called hydrotherapy.
Okay, well, I know that ice baths are cool for growth hormone, and I know that they can help with circulation.
Yeah.
I know that steam is really nice for your face to open up the pores before you exfoliate. Steve, can make you look handsome.
Yep. Beautiful, yep.
And what was the other one?
Steam, water and ice.
Water, so water, I mean, I don't know.
Sure. Well, it's all been used in ancient medicine in India, Egypt, and China.
Right.
So it's been around for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. Now, the effects on the body are remarkable. Mm-hmm. They're pretty good. So the first thing is, and I think, you didn't mention the cardiovascular system.
Oh, yeah. Because obviously the blood runs away from the small capillaries. So
Absolutely.
it makes you breathe. Yeah. Is it harder? What does it make? Obviously, it's like resistance training.
Absolutely, it does, yeah. So if you have cold water immersion therapy, which is not fun.
No.
It causes massive change in the body.
These drop tanks are really popular, hey? And like you see them, and I know a lot of athletes use them as well too to recover from things. But how does it work in terms of for your lung health and that, Steve?
Okay, so it's like a mild stretch for the body without exercise. Okay, so it increases...
I'd rather go for a run than jump in an ice bath, though. I've got to say I'm a bit of a sook.
What a lot of people are doing is they're doing both.
Right. Well, my dad used to have, in New Zealand, Christchurch, used to have a cold shower. Every time. 2 minutes, he'd finish off with literally 60-second ice. And some of the water coming out, man, was like, seriously.
It's nuts, eh?
Yeah.
But it does increase your heart rate, blood pressure, your metabolism dramatically, and peripheral catecholamine concentration, so adrenaline.
Yeah. And I know that there has been some study to show that it actually enhances growth hormone production as well too.
Yes, does that too. So very, very interesting. So, but it's also, it's been found for people who go to, say, a sauna or warm water, 60 degrees is very, very good for congestive heart failure.
Right.
Because it causes vasodilation. Oh. Congestive heart failure is when the heart's just, I'll call it running out of steam. It's just not pumping the blood enough.
Right.
So if you can increase the volume of blood vessels around your body, the heart has an easier job pushing the blood through them.
Okay.
So
sauna's good for people, as opposed to, I mean, like that cold water therapy might cause another problem, Steve. That could actually could it?
That's a problem. Well, that definitely happens.
Yeah.
We all know about that.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, we know that 60 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes improves cardiac function, and repeated sauna therapy increases left ventricular ejection fraction. So in the heart, you've got your left and right chambers. The left one is the one that pushes it all around the body. It's the important one.
Yep.
So if you go into a warm sauna, 60 degrees for 15 minutes, it will increase the power of your heart.
When you exercise, especially longer cardio, what ventricle does that help? Can you remember, Steve?
Yep, it's both. Because the left has to pump it around the body,
right,
and the right has to pump it through the lungs.
When you're doing weights only and you're not doing that, which one are you
left?
The left. Yeah. So the right one's getting a bit ignored.
A little bit ignored because
Right.
you're not getting your heart rate up. You
Right.
you don't need as much oxygen.
Right.
And that's because it's anaerobic without.
So what does this one help? Left.
Yeah.
It doesn't help right?
No, they only test the left in this one.
So the only thing that's really helping right ventricle is
cardiovascular exercise, because you need the right one pushes it through the lungs. Okay, so anything that gets you more puffing, that's the right one.
That's a disturbing picture.
Yeah, it is a disturbing picture. So maybe you shouldn't look to us on YouTube, but they should, shouldn't they? They should look on YouTube, shouldn't they? Because we've got to hit the like button.
Well, and that's it. I mean, what was I going to say? So yeah, guys, come and have a look at us on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's not as disappointing as you might think.
No.
We were going to get hair and makeup, but they said Steve's already perfect and there's nothing we can do. And unfortunately, Jeff, there is nothing that we can do for you. You're beyond help. But if you are on YouTube, please, guys, if you could press the like button and subscribe, and then turn on notifications. We really appreciate it. And in fact, what's really nice is it's been going up, which is great.
Yeah.
So and again, please leave a comment. In fact, I've got a couple which we're going to read out a little bit later on, Steve. So if we read out your comment, you get in contact with us, and then we send you out a free product of your choice. How's that?
That's nice.
Yeah, it is.
Now, you mentioned the respiratory system.
Yes.
I've got a solution for you.
Yeah.
Immerse yourself in 25-degree water, and that improves your respiratory system dramatically.
But that's 25 degrees, like centigrade, Celsius.
Yeah. That's like going into a heated pool. A heated pool is usually 27, so close enough. So have you ever heard swimming being extraordinarily good for the respiratory system?
Yeah.
And there was a study done where they showed that increased oxygenation, metabolic rate, only at 25 degrees. They measured it at 34 and 40 degrees. So if you go into a spa is usually about 40 degrees, it's not going to do much for you. So you have to have that little bit of cooler than your body temperature, and that will help you dramatically. Also, very good for your nervous system.
Okay.
Nervous system. So,
why is that? Synapses.
Yes, synapses. It increases neurotransmission.
Why? Why though?
Because it drives a mild stress in the body.
Okay.
Depending on the actual temperature of the water. Now, I'll go back to the ice pack one. Have you ever put an ice pack on your head for migraines and all the headaches?
I don't get headaches and migraines, Steve, but I've put it on my leg when it's hurt.
Yeah, and that causes vasoconstriction, and migraine is vasodilation, so you counter the effects of it.
Okay.
So a lot of people get these towels, wrap them up with ice cubes through the towel, and tie them around their head in a tight knot.
Yeah.
And that's an effective treatment for migraines.
Tony has to have a coffee most mornings, because if she doesn't, she starts getting a headache.
Yeah, that caffeine is a vasoconstrictor as well, because it increases adrenaline. Adrenaline constricts your blood vessels.
Yep. Which is so funny when so many pre-workouts are so heavy. And I don't mind that if you're looking for a nootropic, you focus. But if you're actually looking to increase blood flow, you should actually have a pre-workout that does not contain caffeine.
Correct.
If that's your major focus, as I said, if you're tired, lethargic, and you're not training well, great. Your caffeine's good. But this is why we recommend using things without caffeine before training, specifically if you're looking to increase blood flow, which is where obviously stuff like AMP and that sort of stuff can be beneficial.
And L-citrulline.
Well, we've got a new product coming out, Steve, that we're making.
Tell them?
Well, no, but I'm just going to allude to it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's without caffeine.
Yeah.
And it's designed specifically for lifters trying to increase nitric oxide.
Yes.
Again, guys, if you're looking at, and just a quick one, if you're looking at lifting to increase pump, then I would avoid caffeine. Steve, would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you're tired and you're flat and you need a lift to get to gym, as I said, the best workout's the one that you do, and you want great, go for a caffeine. So it depends on what your goals are.
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of goals of your musculoskeletal system,
have
you ever heard of active recovery?
Yes.
Yeah. It's when you're like, say you've run the old marathon, and you're actually...
It's never going to happen, by the way.
Yeah, well, it hasn't happened to me for about 6 years.
Oh, come on, Steve. You run 10Ks most mornings, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
every second morning anyway.
Yeah.
I do 12, actually.
Oh.
Who's bragging? 12.8. It's the last one on my watch.
It's funny. I did 13. Yeah.
Oh, damn. So yeah, if you're silly enough to... Actually, speaking of running, we may have a really crazy runner on our next podcast. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about it.
All right.
What's his name?
Dean Carnensis.
Cool. Dean on.
Dean
He's written
on.
a few books.
He's He's written a few books.
Smart guy.
Smart guy. Well, I don't know, because would you think it's smart to compete in the Badwater marathons? You know what that is?
No.
It's the worst marathon ever designed.
Yeah,
now, do you want me to tell you what they do?
Yeah.
Firstly, they miscalculate the distance. It's not 42 kilometres, it's 130. It's from the lowest point in America to the highest point, so it's all uphill. They start at the hottest time of the day, at the hottest time of the year, at the hottest part of America, Death Valley.
Oh, yeah. I know that's California, right?
Yeah. And so you start from there and run uphill all day, all night.
What's that for?
So
why?
Dean competes in those sorts of things.
I tell you what.
Is he smart?
Well, I'm not sure now, but it's nice. We're going to have Dean on here, and I know he's written a few books, so I know he's definitely got. And he's done really well with that, and he'll be really somebody a bit different that we've had on. So anyway, look forward to that one coming up, guys.
Bit weird.
All right.
So active recovery.
Yeah.
That's when you do gentle exercise after the intense exercise. So you've done the marathon.
Yeah. After a game of football, typically go for a bit of a jog, walk around the park a couple of times, just to
It's way better if you get into waist-deep water.
Well, this is what I see. If you see the AFL players and they're sort of talking about it afterwards, they're always in the surf.
Yep.
Typically the next day, though. But is it better to do it straight away, Steve?
Straight away, as soon as you can.
Okay.
Because the pressure helps with the lymphatic movement of all the waste out of there.
Yep.
And then the movement helps with the lymphatics as well.
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of the football players. I know baseball players, they're crazy. They play like 6 times a week. So this sort of recovery therapy must be brilliant because, the old saying is that it's not about overtraining, it's about under-recovering.
Yeah.
So if you can enhance your recovery times, get out. Amazing.
Yep. Now, I've got a weird one for you. This is a bit weird. Cold water improving your gastrointestinal system.
Never heard that.
No, it's weird. I'd never either.
Oh.
But you know what it does?
Why?
It removes blood from your periphery and puts it into your GI and your central organs and does help with digestion.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you're cold and you're going blue, your blood rushes into your organs to keep them functioning, right?
Yeah, and you get more blood there.
Ah.
So you get more activity. So, okay, you don't go to the extreme of dying of frostbite, but have you ever been to the beach and had a swim in the water and it just stimulates your hunger?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the whole effect of it. Mildly cold water because the beach is 20 degrees at the moment. So it that's very much helps stimulate digestion. So a lot of people are using it for weight gain, athletes and that sort of thing, who want to put weight on, like bodybuilders.
But I understand as well too, by swimming in cold water as well too, if you maintain calorie control, so in other words you don't binge out, it can actually help with fat loss.
Yep.
But I don't like the idea of being hungry if I'm trying to lose weight.
I mean, if you're trying to put weight on...
Maybe you should take something that actually helps to limit hunger to improve satiety, Steve. I wonder if there was a product that could do that.
No. Do you need to have a baby at the moment? There's a reason I'm asking. Because if you did...
Well, I don't care, Steve. I'm not going on a date with you.
Because studies have found that the labour pain scores are lower if you give birth in a bath.
Well, I've seen people do this before, and I always wondered why.
Yeah.
In a bath, what temperature water?
They use 34 degrees.
So warm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just relief. And this was...
And how much less pain? I mean, and how do they determine that?
They actually just didn't... They just did surveys on it.
Right.
So probably what they probably did in this one was they took people who'd done it in both dry and bath and said which one was better. Now, I should clarify, this is all published in a big journal, big review article called Scientific Evidence-Based Effects of Hydrotherapy on Various Systems of the Body. It was a great paper because I thought, that's exactly what we need to talk about, all different systems in the body. It's very good for your immune system too and reduces inflammation as well.
Wow.
So going in the water increases leukocytes, granulocytes, circulating levels of interleukin-6 and natural killer cells and its activity.
Wow.
So very, very good. And the treatment was 18 degrees. So
that's chilly.
It's a bit chilly, eh?
Yeah, it's a bit chilly.
That's sort of shrinkage material, if we can say that.
I got plenty to spare.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay, you're fine then. Very good for your hormones too. Going in warm water reduces stress levels. Now, that's like taking a spa.
Nice warm bath.
Yeah.
End of the day.
Works.
Some rose petals, some candles, Steve, some soft music.
Yes.
Yeah. Tony massaging my shoulders.
Yeah. This is it. Yeah. That's very relaxing.
Wouldn't that be nice? That would be bloody nice. I can't remember the last time I had a bath.
No, I've got one at home. I haven't used it. I've never used it. That's weird, isn't it?
No.
Just weird.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a few other little ones there, but actually, and one you might be cold pillow compresses could reduce, could actually improve alopecia.
I am very interested.
I know. I just picked one out there for you. So, yeah. So there's quite a few, and in conclusion, basically, it says all these things have been tested and, all pretty legit. Cool. So good old hydrotherapy. Get into it.
Good old hydrotherapy, yeah.
Can we talk about lasers
Get
now?
into it. Let's talk about lasers.
Remember we talked about lasers and we talked about them with fat loss and all this sort of stuff. Well, lasers do all sorts of other things too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, they shoot baddies.
Like I want. Where's my sharks with freaking laser beams? It's like we have mutated sea bass.
That's so I've grouped this. It was all in infrared heating. So infrared is, you can see a laser, it's red, say usually, that's about 600 nanometers.
Right.
You go beyond that, 800 to 1,000 nanometer length of wavelength, and that gets into the infrared section. So you can't see
that,
but you can feel it. Right. It's heat.
Yep.
Okay, so if you stood up against the glass behind me and the sun was coming in, you would feel the infrared radiation on me. So let's say what they've done is there's this method by which you can test asthma treatments on rats. You give asthma to these rats, okay? And what they did in this particular study was that they made the rats very, very bad asthmatics. Very, very bad.
Yep.
Even when you inject them with corticosteroids, it didn't improve their asthma.
Right.
So these are the bad. And so this paper is called in Lasers Medical Science. It says beneficial effects of infrared light-emitting diodes, LEDs, in corticosteroid-resistant asthma. And what they found was that, in conclusion, it showed very positive effects on these lasers when shone directly on the respiratory tract of these people. So not down their gullet, but on their lungs like that, put the lasers over their chest.
Yeah.
It reduced leukotriene B4, which is a baddie. It reduces thromboxane B2 and prostaglandin E2 series. So any of these even number things are very inflammatory, 4, 2, 2.
Right.
They're the real baddies. It reduced tumour necrosis factor and interleukin 17 and 6. So really, really powerful stuff. So it does absolutely work. Now, can this be extrapolated to humans? Probably, because this wavelength of light is safe for humans.
Okay. So there hasn't been any studies done yet?
No, not on humans. Because
when was that one done, Steve?
2022.
Yep.
Now, there's a big paper released, and I won't go through all the positive things on this, but if you really want to read up about this, it's called Biological Effects and Medical Applications of Infrared Radiation. So infrared radiation is like heat, but it's a special wavelength of light. So we've got some really important ones. First one is in the brain. It works extraordinarily well to improve moods.
Yep.
So that was a good one there. A lot of things. Also, you can use lasers for photo aging. Have you heard of photodynamic therapy?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Like Dr. Doug would use that on severe acne patients.
Yep.
And so this sort of laser
I've seen before and afters of people with acne specifically, and it's pretty impressive.
Oh yeah.
And again, this is kind of why I almost gave myself sun cancer when I was young, because I used to go out into the light to get sun.
Yeah.
Because I had bad skin, right?
Yep.
And that definitely the healing process. You had darker tan as well too, which is better than having pasty white skin. But the healing process of the sun also did definitely improve my skin as well.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Now, this is probably the most coolest action of these particular lasers that were tested, and I'll read this paper. It says, over the past, remember lasers, this thing is safe for humans, but it's not safe for some cells.
Right.
Over the past decade, a number of studies have found that infrared radiation gives rise to some DNA damage in cancer cells. Oh. So it kills cancer cells.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't kill normal cells, because they're rapidly dividing. So what it does is it increases oxidative stress in rapidly dividing cells.
Gee, that's amazing.
Yeah, I love that.
So is there treatment you can go and get now for this, Steve, or is this all theoretical?
There is, but they still use a lot of radiation therapy. You've heard of that?
Yeah.
And it's targeted, but it's not as safe. Like you can't just, you put a laser, I could shine a laser on you at this wavelength and it'd be fine. But if I gave you the radiation, then that would be dangerous for whatever part you shine on. So usually they just stick on a tumour part. But this actually can be possibly used instead of that down the track when there's more research on this to actually target cancer cells.
I'd definitely love to know more.
I know. There's lots of data coming out on it. So very interesting. Again, safe levels of infrared.
What sort of wavelength are we looking at, Steve? The
1,000 micromil. Yeah. So
that would be into the infrared spectrum.
Yeah, definitely infrared. Yeah. You wouldn't see it. You'd feel it.
Yeah.
You'd feel a heat thing. So this is just like sitting in front of one of those bar heaters. but much more powerful and much more targeted. You know, remember those bar heaters?
Yeah, I do.
And they're kind of glow red, but you can't see what comes off. There's no light, but there's that heat.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Used to use them a lot in New Zealand. I still remember, cold winter days in New Zealand and putting I know, really bad, right?
Yeah.
Putting my clothes that were wet in front of a bar heater and watching the steam come off it. Yeah. Not good. That's how people, catch fire all the time, right?
Oh, yeah. You get, especially they use the wool with lanolin in it because New Zealand has got a lot of sheep, I believe.
Don't go there. Don't go there. Here Australia has a lot of high-heeled boots for stop your knuckles from dragging on the ground, Steve.
Oh, we are descended from convicts, so I think I'm allowed to say that because I am. I actually descended from.
I can't believe that's controversial, Steve.
I know it's amazing.
I mean, for Caucasians, right?
Yeah,
we're all Australians.
Absolutely,
Okay.
Absolutely. So we've got lots of different therapies there, and then we've got some emerging ones like mosses. And seaweed treatments. Yeah. So there's some really new weird things. Now red seaweed is the classic one. Irish club moss is another name for it.
Right.
And that's been now starting to be tested.
Right.
On humans can consume it. It's rich in iodine. It's good for you. It's got all this sort of stuff. But they're now testing it for medicinal use. So they're looking at there was mushrooms.
Yeah.
And now they're looking at seaweeds, and the reason is because seaweeds are now sustainable.
Ah.
They're one of the fastest growing plants in the world.
I didn't know that.
Some of the seaweeds are.
Wow.
And they're extraordinarily abundant and wash up on your beach.
Yeah.
No one likes them. It's like you don't want to swim through seaweed.
So what compounds are in the seaweed?
There's lots of them. Iodine was the first one that was isolated, but also all the minerals because you got to remember that you think of how the earth works. It rains on the land, washes off into the sea, so all the minerals go with it, and then the plant takes it up.
Yeah, right.
So the more soluble the mineral, the more it takes it up. So iodine is extraordinarily soluble. Right. So it's very rich in it. So it's very good for your iodine levels. Now iodine protects us against radiation, great for our thyroid, all sorts of things. So it's an essential mineral for humans. Yeah. And also knocks out chlorine and bromine, which is the other halides or similar chemicals. Wow. So it knocks out some bad ones. Yeah. So very good. But what they're using it now is to test on your testicles. Yeah, I know. Why? Well, it's very good for your testes. Really? It's very good for fertility. Why? They haven't alluded a mechanism here, but this paper published 2021 said the effect of red seaweed, Cordus crypsis, which is the Irish sea moss, on the fertility of male albino rats. But why? Because they want to improve fertility and they wanted to test whether it works. Yeah, because those white albino rats are never getting any action. Let's face it. With other female rats, we'll be looking at them and going, nah. So white rats are very, very useful. So what they did well, their testes are. Now, I am kind of a bit stuck here because I'm thinking to myself, okay, surely there's got to be some, is it streptosapinins in there? Yeah, it's the steroidal saponins that do, they say the active ingredients, but also they can't rule out secondary metabolites like phytosterols or polyphenols. Of course. That might make sense. Yeah. How much of an improvement did they measure? Yep, and it wasn't significant. Now, I'm going to show you a graph here, but obviously the gold standard is Shilajit and Tribulus terrestris, right? There you go. So that's healthy. So you can see it boosted by about 15%. Maybe. Okay. Interesting, though. I'd like to know, that's total overall, but I'd like to know if it enhanced free testosterone, Steve. I know. Did it break any of that stuff down? They didn't. They just measured their testicles. Okay. Now, they did it on rats because they did. They just measured because after they gave them this, they chopped. I mean, they must have been very small calipers, right? They did, but they cut the testicles out of the rats. That's what they do. They cut the testicles out of the rats. I've got a study I'd like you to participate in. I've got some good news for you. Actually, you'd be overlooked anyway, Steve. Yeah, I would be. Not enough to start with. It did increase testosterone in the rats. It did? Yep, got a graph there. A little bit, not much, but... Yep. And it also reduced... Every little bit helps, Steve. Every little bit helps. Reduced follicle-stimulating hormone too. So it reduced FSH. Yep. So therefore, it must, if it does both, then it may, and again, this is again for me, a couple of things I'm always interested in is free testosterone. Yeah. And obviously, beta-3 antagonists. So those are my two sort of pet words. But... And that's for people listening. This to do with fat loss. But as far as that is concerned, if it decreased FSH, you would think
by process of elimination that it would increase free testosterone.
Yes, you
so
would.
if it increases, so let's say your level of testosterone is like this, right? And by the way, the rats went like this with the total. But if you also decrease FHS, then you've got that much more free testosterone.
Yeah.
So if you increase testosterone and reduce FH,
which is what it did. And also,
that's interesting. So can we get some of this stuff? I wouldn't mind that.
It's everywhere. You can get it.
Red seaweed. Let's give it a crack.
Red seaweed.
Let's see what happens.
Why not? It also another bonus for you. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
It reduced dead sperm.
Okay.
So there was more live sperm, and the sperm were more mobile.
Okay.
So great fertility thing.
So helping for fertility, yeah.
Yeah. And do you know when this was first used?
Well, what you mean as a sort of a natural medicine, as a natural treatment? Well, considering it's seaweed, which is really abundant, and considering
it was in Japan.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Gee, Steve, I reckon we could be going back. I reckon we could be going back centuries.
Yeah, you were actually to about 20 centuries, to 26 centuries.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 400 BC.
600 BC.
Ah.
Well, it'd be 600 BC anyway. So massive amounts.
Yeah, it's great.
So it's been used, and you know this is typically what happens in natural medicines. People have been using it for X, Y, Z.
And then science catches up.
Put some more lead in my pencil or whatever they talked about back then.
They probably didn't have pencils back then.
No, probably not.
Probably more ink on my quill. I don't know. What do they use in Japan?
Don't know.
Ink. Put some more octopus on my stick.
That's more
that what they would use?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
That'll work. So and then they tested it and it worked really well.
Okay.
So really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Really interesting stuff. I've got another one for you.
Yep.
It also helps your brain too.
I like the sound of this stuff.
Yep. Very good for, and they did this test in a model of Parkinson's disease. So this is in vitro. So they took cells of people that have got, well, not people, but they've got cell lines where they give the cells Parkinson's.
Right. And
then you test this stuff with it. And so it's an in vitro. So it hasn't been tested on humans yet, but it's safe for humans to eat because they've eaten it since 26 centuries. So it's starting, and this was published in 2015.
Cool.
And they found that it could be possibly a treatment for Parkinson's disease. So you need more science on that one.
Yep.
So very good, very important.
Very good.
Very interesting. Now, I've got a question for you that I meant to ask earlier about hyperbaric oxygen.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. The first documented use of hyperbaric medical therapy, which is hyperbaric, I didn't say hyperbaric oxygen, so higher pressure oxygen, was actually, guess when?
Well, obviously there must have been some kind of machination.
Yeah.
So I've got to think it's got to be in the industrial revolution or thereabouts. I'm going to say, but they used to do weird and wonderful things back in like the 1800s and that, Steve.
It's older than you think.
Okay. Well then, if I was going to have a guess, I'd say 1836.
1667.
Wow.
What they did was they got a container and they found that when this container went and they put the person underwater and breathed into this container, it helped some of their neurological symptoms.
Wow. Okay.
And it's like that was the first pressure. Now, that you wouldn't do that these days because you run out of oxygen, but they used to do it for a short amount of times, and that was when it was first done.
Cool.
1667.
Wow, that's cool.
That's like,
I love it.
Yeah, this was way before Charles' law and Boyle's law, which is how to explain how gases work.
Yep.
They didn't know any of that sort of stuff. They hadn't even discovered oxygen yet. So they were just...
They're just giving it a crack?
Giving it a crack.
Why not?
Well, you remember...
But that's how science is done, right? I mean, it's discovery. It's experimenting.
Do you know how they found out that nerves conduct electricity?
On a cadaver?
Yeah.
And they just hooked it up to
a dead guy.
And then? And he watched his muscle spasm?
Yeah, he came to life. He didn't alive, wasn't like...
I know what you mean, yep.
And one of the doctors that was watching was so shocked he died of a heart attack.
That's right. I think I do remember that.
So amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is cool.
So like that, they just give it a crack.
Yeah.
Because back in 67, you cannot... there's not like, ethics committee and we'll they just tried shit.
Ethics gets in the way.
Gets in the way.
God schmod, I want my monkey man.
Yeah, I reckon.
Isn't that what they said?
Exactly. Look, we talk about cutting testicles out of rats. Should be able to do it to humans too. Can't see a problem with that at all. It's really incredible, the history of all this sort of stuff. Like, when I talk about IV, it's got a history.
Yep.
1976 with Pauling and that sort of stuff, and he tested it on cancer patients that were dying.
Yep.
Wasn't much else options.
Well, you haven't got much to lose, really.
No, you either die in 50 days or you take the vitamin C and live till 210. That was the
days, not 210. That would be impressive. That would be statistically significant.
That would be absolutely amazing. But isn't it interesting? All these weird sort of hydrotherapy, lasery, alternate.
I just love discovery, and I love the quest of discovery. And again, I love nature, and I love all this sort of stuff. And this is what. I always get concerned about is that over-regulation could remove some of the really cool compounds and things, that we can use. I mean, you mentioned mushrooms before, Steve. I'm quite sad here in Australia that many of the mushrooms that I think are really good and have been proven to be really helpful have actually been suppressed from use because they're not considered to be therapeutic or traditional use in Australia. But if you've got compounds out of Europe, where arguably our bloodline comes from, and yet there's centuries in some, use. Well, why can't I use that? I mean, humans are humans.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate there are different sort of things with humans from different geographical locations that might make small differences, but in the end, I don't understand if something's proven safe, in one part of the world to use or has been used. As humanity, why can't we use it?
Well, 30% of Australians are born overseas. So it's like, what...
Well, that's true. We're a melting pot, right?
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, good one, Steve.
Yeah, it's good fun, eh? This one. I liked it.
So we've got a couple of FAQs to read out.
Yep,
all right?
Absolutely.
So this one's from Sam K. 6 days ago, this one came in. So love that you went into depth, Steve, with your... AS.
Ankylosing spondylitis.
Went through a similar experience. Doctors told me I was basically a hypochondriac and got sent home with ibuprofen. Begged for a blood test from the 5th doctor I went to, and my inflammation markers were through the roof. Years later, I still get symptoms, but not nearly as bad as it was 3 to 4 years ago. The thing I love is that you give people hope. I hold on to that every day. What I put into my body makes a world of difference, and I've learnt that from you guys. Thanks for changing my life, giving me hope, and teaching me that I'm in the driver's seat.
Yeah,
that's awesome, Sam.
You're awesome.
Thank you. I mean, look, and I think at the end of the day, we certainly, Steve, and I know less than everybody, but yourself and Elisma as our lead scientist, and the fact that you've got background in chemistry, the fact that you study natural medicine, the fact that you are scientific researchers, and both you and Elisma lecture and all the rest of it. It's great for you to be able to put your point across. And as we said, we'll always say this as well too, and I guess this is the overarching. We're not out to attack any industry per se, but we do believe fundamentally that nature knows best.
Yep.
We do believe that food is medicine, and that we do believe that all health starts in the gut, like Hippocrates said.
Absolutely.
And you are, as you said it, Sam, in the end of the day, you are in control of your own health.
Yeah.
And that's the way that it should be.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember the same story. I was in a hospital, and then I was in incredible pain with this thing. It was you don't understand the pain. And they said, we can't find anything wrong with you. They took x-rays and fine, and I'm back. So they kicked me out. So they said, have a shower before we kick out. Passed out in the shower with pain. Got buzzed, those alarm things. Got all the nurses to carry me out. Couldn't walk. And I was in a wheelchair and got shuffled out the front and got put in the back seat of my mum's car. I was that sick.
How old were you?
20. And I was a cripple. So, I knew there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to get out of work or something.
Yeah.
And, nothing wrong with you.
And the way I look at it as well, too, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, food is chemistry.
Yep.
What we eat is chemistry. We're talking about acids, and we're talking about, alkaline, and we're talking about all these other things that happen, and the chemical reactions that happen in the body. We understand that.
Absolutely.
So therefore, it makes sense, obviously, then the nutrition, the food, the herbs, and the other things that we put in are going to have an impact and create substrates in the body that the body's going to use, and then it's going to fuel certain things. It seems so academic. It seems so
rudimentary.
Yeah, rudimentary. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Anyway. Okay, and this one's from Claire Saunders. Amazing. Had the most insane food poisoning over the weekend. Had to go on antibiotics. And listen to the last podcast and hanging for this one. I've been binging on all the polyphenols. So thanks for the team for impeccable timing. Well, thanks, Claire, and really appreciate you for being so active as well too in the tribe. It's fantastic to have like-minded people. And guys, if you love the podcast and you want to be around other people, and again, it's always respect. It's always, we don't all agree. Steve, you and I don't always agree, but it's always in respect. But come onto the tribe, jump into the tribe, get involved. We need more people to be talking about their experiences, their stories, what's happened to them, and what they've done about it. And it's great. It's a great community to get. And again, you want to be with other like-minded people such as yourself as well too. So jump over onto our Facebook page and join the tribe. But thanks, Claire, and great to hear that. Again, we believe in an intervention where required. Yep. So, obviously use some antibiotics there, and then has obviously started using some other polyphenols and some food to help get you back on track. So it's great to hear.
Polyphenols, you've got to love them.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Claire. So, guys, if you could both please get in contact either through info@ATP Science or jump onto the website and have a chat with one of the team members there. They're going to send you out a product of your choice, and that's just because we read you out in the podcast. Guys, please, we want your questions, we want your comments, we want your insights, we want you to ask us questions if you'd like us to do a podcast on something. If you've got a health concern, now we've got Steve here who's a qualified naturopath as well too, and while it will be for information purposes, maybe to take the we want to hear from you.
Yep.
So please write in. I'd love to start reading out some cases, some problems to treat as information and go back to your healthcare practitioner. Guys, jump on and join the community. Love to hear from you.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Another good one today.
It's good fun.
And we'll be back next week with some more. And coming up very soon, we've got the long-distance crazy man runner who's also an author as well too.
Dean Carnensis.
So stay tuned for that one coming in the next few weeks.
Yes.